Welcome to the Story a Day podcast. This is Julie Duffy, encouraging you to be a writer today, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Story a Day podcast. I'm Julie Duffy, and I was thinking, I bet you are a lot like me in that I bet you have a lot of books about writing on your shelf, or your Kindle, or your library checkout history. And I bet you have signed up for a lot of courses, webinars, readings and interviews with authors. Over this past year, I bet you've signed up for a lot of free events, conferences that you wouldn't have been able to get to otherwise, classes from various writing teachers, discussion groups, all kinds of stuff. And can I ask you how your writing's going? Because also, if you're a lot like me, it can be really tempting to sign up for and consume all of this content about writing and not actually do any writing, or certainly not make as much progress as you would like to be making. Because there's so many opportunities out there. What would it be like if you were actually making the massive improvements that you thought you were going to get from buying those books on writing and signing up for those courses and showing up for those webinars, or at least keeping the email where they sent you the link of the replay that you're going to watch someday? Yeah, I know. You're not the only one. And what if you could do that, make that massive progress without spending more of whatever resource is the most valuable and the most rare in your life? For some people, that's money. You don't want to spend more money on books and courses and all of that, and that's fine. For some people, though, the money isn't so much of an issue, it's time. You can't take any more time. You don't want to take any more time away from the actual writing, from your family, from your work. And yet again, another thing, another resource that you might be short of might not be so much time as energy. So I want to talk a little bit today about engaging, because that's my theme here at Story a Day this month, engaging with your approach to writing and studying and increasing your skills by engaging with your focus and taking this little moment while you're listening to this podcast to think about what would be the most valuable thing for you to focus on. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I've seen it work. You've seen it work. You may just not have thought about it as in these terms, but we've all seen it work. It's one of the reasons I run Story a Day May every year and September, because it's such a huge challenge, it's such a huge commitment that people have to focus if they're going to have any hope of getting anything out of it. And when they focus on just writing a whole bunch of short stories in May, it allows them to deprioritize distractions. Things that you may want to do, but that may not be what you're focusing on at the moment. It's the reason why you can write a whole novel in November, but you can't write 20,000 words in December. Because you're focused, because you've committed to doing one thing for this period of time. It's the reason people do fitness challenges and diet challenges. There's a whole business organizational thing called Agile, which is all built around doing sprints. We do writing sprints in the Story a Day Superstars group. We just get together and we sit in silence on Zoom calls and work together. And people are kind of weirded out by that at first. And then within a couple of sessions, they're like, this is amazing. This is so helpful. Focus is huge. But how do you decide, what are the upsides of focus are, you can get to the end of a project. You can go deeper into a skill. You can engage more meaningfully with other people in the community and get more out of those relationships. And that applies to any part of your life, not just writing. Actually being present with somebody when you're with them is the best way to be. And it allows you to stop being distracted by all of the shoulds. I know someone who refers to this as shoulding all over yourself, which sounds a bit naughty, and it sounds even worse in an American accent. But there's so much that we could be doing and possibly should be doing. And writing, as you'll have gathered from listening to me, if you've been listening to this podcast, it's not just one thing. It's not just writing. It's so many things. And the deeper you get into it, the more things you realize are involved in it. There's writing, revising, coming up with ideas, there's networking, there's developing your skills, there's learning how to write queries and learning how to publish and learning how to self-publish if that's the way you want to go, or contact agents if that's the way you want to go. There's submitting your stories to publications. There's so many different skills in this that it becomes easy to get scattered. So I'm going to encourage you this week to focus on a couple of things. Maybe one in a couple of different areas, but focus. And here's how I suggest you go about it. Before you decide what you want to do or how you're going to track it or any of that stuff, I would suggest that you figure out why you want to make a change. What's wrong, right? If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know what she's talking about, I'm fine, then great, good for you. Make some notes about what's going right for you right now. But if you are a little dissatisfied with your progress, figure out what is the reason, the why behind you looking to change your habits. Do you feel like you've been doing this for a while and you're spinning your wheels, you're not really making any progress in the quality of your writing? Are you not making enough progress in the output, just the sheer word count? Do you feel like you haven't figured out where you should be, what kind of writing you should be doing? Alternatively, you could have a clock ticking, None of us is getting any younger. Maybe you've reached an age where you're suddenly like, oh, this is, there's a finite number of projects I can do before my number's up. Whatever your reason for wanting to make a change, maybe you're just grumpy because you're not getting your writing done. That's an excellent reason to make a change, and nobody in your life is going to argue with you if you say to them, I'm going to do more writing because it makes me happier and it makes me easier to live with, and you're going to benefit from that. So take a moment to write down, figure out what your reason is for wanting to make a change this week in what you've been doing up until now. As all the self-help gurus say, what you've been doing up until now got you to here, but it's not going to get you any further. So why do you want to make a change? What is your reason? What's niggling at you? Is it you want to make some progress, you want to develop your skills, you want to write more, you want to make good on this identity that you have of being a writer, and you're not really doing that. Whatever it is, figure out your why and make it really emotional. Make it something that really connects with you. Like, you should maybe be a little verklempt when you read it back to yourself. And then once you've figured out why you want to make a change, you'll have a clearer sense of what you should be doing. So if you feel like you've just been writing the same kind of stories over and over again for the last year, and you really feel like the quality of your writing isn't getting any better, then there's some skills missing. So your what is going to be, I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm going to brush up on an old skill. I'm going to dive deep into dialogue writing, or I'm going to read David Corbett's book on the art of character, or I'm going to read whatever. You're once you know why you want to make the change, you'll have a better idea of what the change needs to be. And then you can assess what resources you already have. What books are on your shelves that you haven't read yet, or that you haven't finished yet? Go and read the introduction and the table of contents of a few of those, and make a note of some things, some chapters, some books. You don't need to read the whole book, but some chapters that might help you work on the specific skill that you are trying to master. If it is that you need to make time in your life for writing, it might not even be at the stage of developing your skills. Don't go and look at all the books you've got about how to write character, story structure, all that kind of stuff. Go and look at all those articles you've saved about time management. And again, you'll find the best of them connect you to that why, that sense of what you want to be and what's important to you. And then you can start putting time in your calendar, taking out things that don't get you closer to that goal. Likewise, look at courses that you've signed up for, or seminars that you've saved the replay for. But put away the ones that don't connect to the most burning why that you identified at the beginning of this exercise. Also, as you're thinking about what you're going to do, think about those resources I talked about at the beginning: time, money, and energy. Sure, you can buy another course or another book, and that might be the best thing for you to do if making the investment of money is going to hold you more accountable, if working with somebody that you pay is going to get you there faster. There's a reason there are personal trainers all over the place. If you are thinking about energy as your resource that is the least abundant, think about doing the types of work that feel easiest to you, or that drain you the least. I enjoy writing fiction and non-fiction a lot. I find fiction powers me up. Non-fiction is very, very satisfying, but I'm usually fairly wrung out at the end of completing an article. Fiction, I'll be tired in a different way. So for me, if I have less energy and I want to get some writing done, I'm going to say it's okay to work on the stuff that actually gives me energy. Work on the fiction today. And I would encourage you to think about that too. It's okay for it to feel easy, or to feel easy on some level. It's okay for it to feel like play. You don't have to work on your writing all the time. So choose a thing that is based on that urge you had to make a change in your life, your why. Why do you want to make a change? Figure out what you can do. Can you work through a book that you have previously neglected, or a course you've previously neglected, or do you need to invest in something new? And when you're thinking about those things, especially when you're thinking about money and investing in something new, be aware of the sunk cost fallacy. The fact that you've bought a book about writing because everybody else talked about how good it was and you spent $24 on it, and you feel like, I really need to get my money's worth out of that book. You could waste a lot of your life reading books that you don't connect with. So be aware that just because you paid for something, the best lesson from that might be that this wasn't the right thing for you. So do not persevere with something that you hate just because you paid for it. And then the final step that I'm going to encourage you to do is to pick something this week. So if you're trying to up your skills, pick a book or a course or a webinar or an article that you've put aside and go finish it, or go and find the bits in it that help you with that skill. If you are trying to get more time to write or up your productivity, then put some things on your calendar and absolutely stick to them just for writing. You could sit down and organize your entire calendar this week, and you could say, okay, I'm going to put in time for workouts, and I'm going to put in time for meal prep, and I'm going to you can do all of that, but I want you to focus on just putting some time on your calendar for writing that you will honor. And if you have to say no to some things, let's practice that this week. You can also consider engaging with other people in the writing community, and I would encourage you to find somewhere that you're already comfortable, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, or whether you're in a group, if you're in the Superstars group, but you don't use our Slack workspace very often, pop in for 15 minutes, set a timer, and just engage with people for 15 minutes every day. And, ask them how their writing's going, tell them what you're working on, and then walk away. I've been doing that recently. It's very effective. It's hard to walk away at the end of the 15 minutes because it's not very long. And it's hard to walk away, but it helps. And then I would love it if you would come over to the blog. This is going to be storyaday.org/episode 202. And tell me, what did you pick? You can tell me your why if you want to, but you don't have to, because that should be really personal. And if you want to air it in public, great, because I think that gives accountability. But if you don't want to tell me why you feel like you need to make a change this week, that's fine. I'd like you to tell me what you've decided to focus on. If it is a skill that you need to develop, if it is productivity, if it is engaging with other people, if it is, I think that's pretty much it, right? Turning out words, increasing your skills, or building your network. Tell me what you've decided to work on this week. Leave a comment there. Tell me who you'll contact, how you'll engage with them. Tell me what skill you're going to work on, whatever you've decided to do, and just commit to doing that one thing. And then I'm going to put a link in the show notes for something that I think might help you next time you get tempted to go and sign up for another thing that you maybe don't need because you've already got all these resources which you've just discovered. So there's a worksheet I have put together. It's kind of a flow chart, and it's called something like, should I sign up for that new course or book or buy that new book? And I'll put a link in the show notes, and you can go and you can follow that flow chart. It's a little bit tongue in cheek, but I think there's some serious thought behind it as well. So that's what I have for you this week. I want you to engage with your work. I want you to focus on something, whether it's networking or productivity or quality, and come over to the blog and tell me what you decided. If you want to learn to write, don't read another book or article. Start writing. I'm here to invite you to consider the Story a Day 3-day challenge. It's a challenge and a workshop that gets people writing and completing stories in just 3 days. And it works. I'm fanatical about getting more and more diverse stories into the world, and I think yours should be among them. If you're feeling the pull to write or level up your storytelling, let me hold your hand through 3 days of short story writing. Check out the 3-day challenge at storyaday.org/3DC. And I'm back with this week's writing prompt. This week I'm carrying on my focus on the senses, engaging with the world through our senses. And this week's focus is on sound. So the actual writing prompt is that your protagonist is hiding from someone, and the stakes are really high. They can't be discovered. I'll leave it up to you to decide why. That's your part of the deal. But while you're writing this, I want you to think about sound, using as much sound language, description, metaphors as you possibly can. So think about, if somebody's hiding, if somebody's trying to stay concealed, sound is one of the first things that will give them away. So think about what they can hear, think about what happens when they move. You can also go out, into your own environment here as far as you can, and and listen to things, that here spring is springing, and you might even be able to hear the birds in the background as I'm recording. And that's new, right? That's something I'm really noticing, because it's been very quiet over the winter, and now the birds are chirping and dogs are barking, and the world sounds different. I would also encourage you this week to move beyond cliches. So, does thunder just roll? Is there any other way you could describe that sound? To me, I think sometimes it sounds like the sky's being ripped apart. It sounds like somebody's grabbed a big bolt of fabric and they've ripped it right in front of a microphone. Think about ways that you can heighten the tension and reflect the changing way that your character feels as they come closer to being discovered and as they feel more comfortable. What do sounds feel like to them? What language do they use to describe the sounds? A frog's call might be like a conspiratorial whisper if they're relaxed and confident, but the same frog, if they're really tense because they're just about to get discovered, that same frog's call might startle them like a phone call at 4 a.m. You can use these sensory details to convey a lot in a story. So that's my writing prompt for you this week. You can come over to the blog at storyaday.org/wow-sound. Wow is for Write on Wednesday. That's when the prompts come out. So wow-sound to find this prompt. The link is in the description. And I'd love for you to leave a comment about what you wrote and what you discovered as you focused on this one slightly awkward exercise of focusing on just mostly one sense. Very curious to hear what you discovered, if it was useful, and what you'll take forward from that. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.